Hey everyone! The way we all use Python is changing, and it is changing fast. So, what does the cutting edge really look like right now? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the 2024 Python Developer Survey. This thing is put out by the Python Software Foundation and JetBrains, and you can think of it as our crystal ball for what Python development is going to look like in 2025. This survey talked to over 30,000 developers, which is just a ton of data, giving us this incredible snapshot of the community. So, who exactly is the modern Python pro? Are they a seasoned veteran with decades of experience, or a fresh face just starting out? The answer? Well, it might actually surprise you. Let's kick things off with the developer profile. First up, let's talk about the people behind the code. You might picture the typical developer as someone with, at least a decade of experience under their belt. But the reality of the professional Python world is it's much, much newer than that. Yeah, check this out. 50%, a full half of all professional paid Python developers have 2 years of experience or less. That is just a massive, massive wave of new talent pouring into the ecosystem right now. But here's the really interesting part. While half have very little professional experience, the single largest group of developers, about 30% of them, have been coding in Python for 3 to 5 years. So what does that tell us? It tells us that a ton of people are learning Python as a hobby or a skill before they ever get a paid gig. And you know what that creates? A huge opportunity for those of you with deep experience. If you've been doing this for 5, 6, or even 10 years, you are becoming a seriously rare and valuable asset. Okay, so we have all these developers. What are they actually building? This is a question I get all the time. Where are the Python jobs? Well, according to this survey, the answer is crystal clear. 2 fields just completely and utterly dominate the Python world. And here they are, the 2 giants, data analysis and web development. You put them together, and that accounts for a staggering 80% of all professional Python use. It's not even close. And honestly, with the explosion in AI, it is no surprise at all that data-related work is right there at the top. If you're wondering where to focus your skills, this chart is basically your treasure map. Of course, it's not just about the big 2. We see plenty of Python being used in really important areas like DevOps and academic research. But here's a fun little fact. When you look at what people are doing for fun as hobby projects, web scraping just skyrockets in popularity. Seems like a lot of us really enjoy building little internet crawling bots in our spare time. All right, now let's get to the good stuff, the toolkit. This is where things get really interesting. What are these developers actually using day in and day out to get their jobs done? Because knowing these tools is absolutely key to staying relevant. So starting in the world of web development, there's a pretty big shift happening. For years and years, 2 frameworks were the undisputed kings of the hill. But a new contender has shown up and completely changed the game, especially if you're building APIs. And here it is. While the old guard, Django, and Flask are still super popular and not going anywhere, the real story is the explosive growth of FastAPI. It has just shot up and become the default choice for any new API development. The message here is loud and clear. If you're building APIs with Python today, you have got to have FastAPI in your toolkit. Now let's hop over to the data science world. Here, some things never change, but others are evolving really fast. Pandas and NumPy are still the absolute bedrock. You just have to know them, period. But then look at Streamlit. It has become the go-to tool for whipping up quick data dashboards without ever having to touch JavaScript. And for classic, traditional machine learning, good old scikit-learn is still that reliable workhorse that everyone depends on. All right, time for the heavyweights, the deep learning frameworks. For the longest time, TensorFlow was the undisputed champion. It was the king. But the tide has officially turned. PyTorch is now more popular among Python developers for training models. Now look, TensorFlow is still a huge player, but it's clear that PyTorch has captured all the momentum. And you literally cannot talk about modern AI without mentioning this. The Hugging Face Transformers library has seen another massive jump in adoption this year, up 6%. For anyone who's working with large language models or doing any kind of NLP, this has become an absolutely essential part of the toolkit. Okay, so where is all this code actually being written? Well, the great editor war is basically a 2-horse race. You've got Visual Studio Code, which has a little bit of a lead in overall popularity, but PyCharm is right on its heels and is still a massive favorite, especially in professional environments. The bottom line, You really can't go wrong with either one of these powerhouses. Now for my favorite part. Let's look to the future. The survey doesn't just tell us what's popular now, it gives us these awesome clues about what's coming next. And there are a few up-and-coming tools that are growing so fast, you just can't ignore them. When it comes to managing packages and your virtual environments, what's the one thing everybody wants? Speed, right? Well, a brand new tool has burst onto the scene that is just unbelievably fast. And as you can imagine, developers are definitely noticing. 11%. That is the adoption rate for a tool called UV. It's a new Rust-based package manager, and this is its very first year in the survey. To see a brand new tool grab 11% of the market right out of the gate is, well, it's almost unheard of. It's a huge signal that a major shift is happening. Now, to be clear, the built-in Venv is still the most used tool for just creating virtual environments. But UV's explosive growth in the package management side of things shows it has the potential to become the all-in-one solution everyone's been waiting for. I'm willing to bet that its share is going to be significantly larger in next year's survey. And speaking of Rust, we're seeing another really important trend. For decades, the path to getting raw speed in Python was to write extensions in C or C++. That was just the way it was done. But now, more and more developers are choosing Rust for that job, taking advantage of its memory safety and modern tooling to build those high-performance modules. So after digging through data from over 30,000 developers, a really clear picture starts to emerge. We see a world that's shifting towards fast API, towards PyTorch, and towards blazing fast new tools like UV. The Python ecosystem isn't just standing still, it feels like it's accelerating. So the only question left to ask is your toolkit ready to keep up? Thanks so much for joining me.